It's the middle of the night and all you can hear is the sounds of crickets running around, and the only light you have is the moon reflecting from the ocean. A young girl was awake late at night, drawing on a piece of paper, and she was silently drawing until she heard knocks on her front door. Curious to see who it is, she waited for her mother to go downstairs and open the door, but after a minute of more constant knocks and no sign of her mother, the young girl had enough and took the situation into her own hands. So she gets off from a chair and slowly walks downstairs and begins to creep closer towards the door, and as soon as she gets in front of the door, she hears a couple of words from the other side, along with more knocks repeatedly hitting on the door. And now the girl's curiosity is exploding and she decides to open the door, and as soon as she opens the door, everything goes black. This story that I'm about to tell you today is famous for being so strange and so downright heartbreaking. And also, at the end, there's a bit of a twist. So if you want to know what that twist is, I suggest you stay to the end. But before we begin, if you enjoy true crime stories or you're just a fan of scary stories in general, then I highly suggest you subscribe to my YouTube channel. And that's all I do. And I upload once a week. But with all that being said, let's begin. It's bright and early and Penny and her two daughters woke up, and while the family gets ready for the day, and they all sat down and began to eat breakfast until they noticed that the 9-year-old daughter and sister Anthonette wasn't there. So they all looked at each other and were like, why is she not here? And so they began to shout her name. After a couple of minutes of trying to communicate with Anthonette from downstairs, Anthonette's mother, Penny, decides that I'll go upstairs and see what she's doing, because her being this late to come down for breakfast is very unusual, and she's usually the first one to be down. So Penny walks up the stairs and gets to Anthonette's room. She knocks once, she waits. She knocks twice, she waits again, with no sign or response from Anthonette from the other side. She begins to shout Anthonette's name, thinking that she's still asleep, but quickly she gets frustrated and then just opens the door. And this is when she noticed that Anthonette wasn't in her room. Penny walked in and began to shout for Anthonette, expecting her just to show up out of nowhere, but of course she didn't. Once she realized that Anthonette wasn't in her room, she went to the top of the stairs and began to shout for her two daughters, which once the daughters got to the bottom of the stairs, she straight up told them that, if you know what Anthonette is, you need to tell me right now. And both the girls looked at each other and were like, we don't know where she is either, and if we did, we would have told you by now. And now panic began to set into Penny, and she began to search up and down the house, and she told her daughters to begin searching as well. And then Penny decided that I'm gonna go search outside in our neighborhood to see if she's out there. And for an hour of searching, the family couldn't find her at all. And at this point, Penny was having a full-blown panic attack, and she knew that she needed to call the police. And so the police were called, and instantly they thought that Anthonette just ran away and to give her a couple of hours or a day to come back. But Penny pleaded with them and said that she's only 9 years old, why would she do that in the first place? And so the police reluctantly were like, we're going to your house, but let's be honest, she's probably ran away. And finally this is when Penny would explain what she think happened to her. And the officers quickly came to the conclusion that Anthonette must have been kidnapped. And both Penny and the officers speculated that this must have happened in the middle of the night. And while nothing much happened after that due to the lack of evidence, they did begin multiple search parties, but again found nothing. And after a whole year of Anthonette's disappearance, the Gallup police station would receive a frantic phone call for help. And on the line was a feminine voice that claimed to be Anthonette, and the operator on the line couldn't understand much due to the heavy breathing of this person. But with intense listening, she made out that Anthonette was in a place called Albuquerque and that she'd been there for a while, and the dispatcher began asking her the exact location of where she actually was. But suddenly the operator noticed that there was footsteps coming towards this mysterious person, and once the footsteps came closer, she could hear an unidentified male's voice telling supposedly Anthonette that, who said you can use the phone? And as soon as he said that, the line cut out. But just before the line cut out, the operator could hear Anthonette's screams. Now the operator on the line was just stunned and didn't know what to say, and also didn't know if this was some sick prank or was it actually Anthonette. So quickly Penny was told to come down to the station, and the police began to play the call back, and instantly Penny recognized that that voice was actually Anthonette, based on the way the girl pronounced her name. Now there was a lot of speculation that this could just be a prank, mainly because if Anthonette was in Albuquerque, why would her 911 call be connected all the way to the Gallup police station? The police would try to trace the call back but were unsuccessful. But the one good thing you could say that came out of this was that at least Anthonette's family knew that Anthonette was still alive. Now this is where we skip 5 years into the future, and nothing much has happened due to again the lack of evidence. but until there were some photographs that were released, and it showed that Anthonette was still alive. And not long after that, a waitress came forward and said that, yes, I seen Anthonette, and I seen her at the restaurant that I'm working at. She said that she seen a girl at a table with a man and a woman, and the girl was about 14 to 15 years old. She also said that they were all dressed odd, almost like they were trying to hide their faces. But the part where the waitress confirmed that this was Anthonette was when the young girl kept dropping utensils on the floor, and the waitress felt like this was quite intentional. But when the waitress would pick up these utensils, the young girl would grab her hand, and the waitress at first thought nothing of it, and she just kept working until the three left and the waitress began to clean the table. Was when she decided to lift under the plate that the young girl was eating on and found a napkin that had a message on saying, "Please help me, call the police." And well, the police were rung and they began to search around the area of the restaurant, and unfortunately they couldn't find anything. And for a while of searching for more eyewitnesses and for more evidence, the police began to re-interview the witnesses that were involved in the case. The first person that they spoke to was Wendy, Anthonette's sister, who at the time of her disappearance was only 5 years old. But now fast forward to where we are now, she's 10. And that's when she proceeded to say, "I witnessed the abduction." She said around 3 a.m. she began to hear knocks on the door, and she heard footsteps going downstairs, which we all know now was Anthonette. And when she heard Anthonette open the door, the person on the other side was apparently Uncle Joe, and along with Uncle Joe were two men who proceeded to grab her. So the police were a bit stumped and were like, "Why would you not tell us this information before?" And well, Wendy was like, "I'm sorry, I thought I'd get in trouble if I said anything, and I also felt scared and I didn't know if anyone would believe me." So the police would go to Mr. Uncle Joe, who was married to Penny's sister at the time, and well, they would arrest him and take him into custody and began to investigate him. And they also began to interview him, and for a while he was a bit nonchalant and wasn't really taking this whole case seriously until the police began to really push him for answers. That's when he kind of broke down and told the police that, "Hey, I was asleep at the time and I promise you I haven't done anything." And after a while, and Uncle Joe having a very strong alibi, the police cleared Joe. But this gave police the idea of whoever kidnapped Anthonette knew her family. And again, for months the police would do their best to try to find Anthonette. They would comb every area that they thought Anthonette could be in, and they would interview hundreds of people that claimed to see Anthonette, and unfortunately majority of them would lie to the police for attention. And well, unfortunately the police could never find her. Another year went by and Penny went to this woman who did magic in hopes of finding Anthonette's whereabouts, and the woman would do her ritual by connecting the spirits of the missing person. And according to this woman, she would tell Penny that Anthonette is still alive and she might have a child, and that she's also being held against her will somewhere in the southwest of the United States. And the police would actually search in them areas and again would find nothing. And unfortunately again, she wouldn't be found. But the video doesn't end here though. A lot of people speculate that Anthonette was being trafficked, but the most interesting theory is, when Penny went old and she was in her deathbed, the police wanted to ask a couple of more questions about Anthonette's disappearance, but Penny wouldn't say anything, and she would just go silent on them, which made the police think that she knew more to this story. And she also failed a polygraph test, which again made the police question her truthfulness. To add on top of that, she had been spending an absurd amount of money, which no one knows where she got the money from. There was also allegations that Penny was selling explosive products, but this hasn't been confirmed, and again, it's just conspiracy. But once again, it made the police think that Penny was a part of Anthonette's abduction, and unfortunately we'll never know, because Penny would pass away on April 18th, 1999. And Anthonette's father, Anthony, would never say anything as well. And in 2012, he would pass away as well. And if Anthonette is still alive to this day, she would be in her mid-40s. But again, we just don't know. So that'll be it for today's video. Comment below your theories on this case, as I would love to know your guys' ideas. And also don't forget to subscribe, as I do this once a week. And also thank you to the big 300 subscriber mark goal that we just hit. But with all that being said, thank you for watching, and yeah, goodbye.